Yellow.
Yellow.
Can you see me? There we are.
I can see.
All right. Rock and roll.
What's going on?
Oh, nothing. Is that your room there?
Yeah, it's my room.
Oh, never seen it.
Yeah, it's pretty swanky.
Yeah. Let's get a quick whip pan there. There you go. All right.
Yeah. Kind of small, but it's not Harry Potter's room, that's for sure.
Well, you're also a big guy, so
Yeah.
it makes up for it, I guess. What's going on, man?
Not much. I was working on some stuff while watching Crocodile Dundee 2.
No, nice.
On a good form of entertainment, VHS. You probably heard of it.
VHS or Crocodile Dundee 2?
VHS.
Oh, yeah. I remember reading a article in something called The Library about it.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. It's whatever,
Yeah. So yeah, I was working on a review for Red Sparrow with Jennifer Lawrence.
Oh, is that good?
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah, it's got some it's got good cinematography and the performances are good. Especially from Jennifer Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
She has to do some pretty dark scenes where she has to be tortured or she has to be fully nude and do some scenes like that. But other than that, it's kind of slow and kind of boring.
Yeah, that must have been really horrible to have to watch her do all those crazy scenes there, huh?
I know. I had to look away. It was just too terrible. Yeah.
I bet. I'm sure that's in your review
And
too.
it's practically full frontal too as well, but
Interesting. Well,
it's for the art, It's for the art.
well, technically that's been out since 2014 anyway. So.
Oh, has it?
No, not the movie. The
Yeah, right.
Yeah. The leaked.
Yes, I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got the next films I got to review is Gringo and then Tomb Raider.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure you're looking forward to Tomb Raider.
Yeah, definitely Tomb Raider. Gringo looks kind of funny. It's got Charlize Theron, so.
Oh, sure.
She's
Just
nice.
Name all the women in it.
I'm just saying she's nice to look at, and she's actually a very good actress. So.
I'm just busting your chops.
I know.
But all right, that's cool. And that's for Hammer to Nails.
No, this is for another film review website, which they cover the much bigger films that come out. It's called Film Festival Today.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I
remember.
I kind of just started with them with my review for Hostile, so it's going pretty well actually. I'm really enjoying it.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Is there moolah involved?
No, it's not. There's no moolah involved, but it's not like a very demanding job where I would want to get paid.
Sure.
For how time consuming it is, but not really. It's I have the time to work on it. It's like kind of a side thing, but that kind of just builds credibility.
Yeah.
For me, if I do have an opportunity where I can pursue film criticism, perhaps for some moolah, that would definitely help.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
What have you been up to,
man? Nothing. As you see, I'm back on Twitter.
Yeah.
I was expecting when I joined back up that I was going to be obsessed with it quickly, constantly tweeting or, and like I was with my second Instagram or whatever. And I mean, it's only been a few days, but I'm still just kind of
I'm kind of I tweet when I feel like I want to tweet something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on it technically every day, just looking at what other people post,
sure,
and liking and retweeting. But tweets for myself, I just do it when I get inspired to share something. I don't feel like I have to be obligated to meet a quota.
Yeah.
Every week or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm going that way, so I can like it.
Yeah, I mean that's what I kind of mentioned in the other little thing I recorded this morning, where, I don't want Twitter to turn into just something where I'm tweeting about what I had for breakfast or just I'm going to see this thing today or do that. It's like, who cares?
Yeah, I'm doing it for like when like a film review is up, I'll post it on Twitter to
Right.
share like that.
Yeah,
Kind of,
I wanted it to be a marketing tool, something I can share photos with and market to a different audience, because Twitter Twitterers used hashtags, I think, a little better than like Instagram people do. Obviously, Instagram has allowed me, like with hashtags, a lot of people that I've never met before, never will meet,
yeah,
have seen my pictures. But excuse me, with Twitter, there's just a little more connective world with it. Um, and you're able to reach out to celebrities a little more, like, and stuff like
yeah.
that. Obviously, most likely they never answer you back, or they maybe just like your thing or something. But
I've found that like not to say like there's like there's a hierarchy, but really like the more small time celebrities,
mm-hmm.
I feel like answer you have a better chance of them responding to your tweets if they're like not Jennifer Lawrence
Sure,
or something like that.
right, yeah, no,
Uh,
I agree.
mhm.
But yeah, and then so I'm doing that, and then again, I mentioned in this other, I guess, an episode, I don't know, that I watched this documentary, which has nothing to do with podcasting, but it was about a late night radio host, Bob Fass, who did. He kind of is the one who kind of invented late night radio, as far as like being a free form medium of like, we don't have to just play music, and there's people that actually listen at night. That people work at night, and we can appeal to them, and so he's kind of the original Howard Stern in a way. And that just got me, like, of course, seeing people talking at microphones and doing all that kind of stuff. I was kind of like, the podcast bug came back in, and I was like,
Right.
I want to do something. But
Just to do it, yeah.
yeah, and that's what I like look at it as. Maybe I can just do it as like how my YouTube channel is, where if I get inspired by something, I'll do it, and then if not, I haven't made a video in a month just because like I haven't thought of anything. But as soon as something does pop in my head, I'll be like, all right, yeah, let me do that. And that's what I kind of want this to be, something where, I'm having a conversation with somebody like yourself, or, or I'm just talking by myself. I talked for almost 30 minutes by myself before, and then now we're here now. So this will kind of be, I guess, like episode 2 or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like I know you didn't really I can't remember if you went into detail in the first episode, but like what you wanted like the theme of this podcast to be, or like what you wanted to like talk about, if it's just anything that comes to mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of pulling from that doc I saw of like Freeform. That's what I kind of wanted it to be. I mean, it's nice to go in with an agenda, a little bit of like, maybe we'll talk about movies, we'll talk about like in the previous episode I talked about like kind of just sticking to your guns of trying to find jobs and stuff, and it's tough and it's shitty, and sometimes you just have to keep taking the no's for that one yes that'll work. Right. And then so I didn't want to be bogged down to something. Like, I think that was a little bit of our downfall with Geekcast, because as much as I love doing it and enjoyed talking with yourself, Gerald, or Greg, or whomever, I think we just found ourselves to be a little locked in to something.
Yeah.
And most podcasts, that's how they benefit, is doing just one, one theme or whatever. Oh, we're the politics people, we're the history people, whatever. But that's not me. That's not my style.
Uh-huh.
I don't like to talk about the same things all the time. So I just wanted it to be freeform, and that was kind of what I was talking about in the first episode. So,
well, awesome. I mean, this is a little awkward because I'm not quite sure what to talk about, but I don't know if you had anything in mind.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind repeating something. Like, I actually wanted to talk to you about your thoughts on job searching and things like that. I kind of went into it a little bit previous episode, but that was more like because I was trying to just talk about where I was at currently in my life and my whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but I would love to just get like a more of a conversation going. That was the other thing to focus on is conversation because,
Yeah.
um, I gave an example of like, and it worked. It might be working out anyway. Where I was like, I had to text a guy that my dad's friend knew or something like that, and how the first time it got misconstrued of what he thought I was trying to say and what I was actually trying to say, and it would have been a different story had I just talked to him on the phone or in person or whatever. So that's what I wanted to be. I wanted it to be more of like a conversing than just like, so then this happened in Flash, and then you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, or we honestly, I'd be fine if we just sat here and I told you we talked about the script idea I had or another idea. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't.
Yeah.
It just whatever. I don't. There's no agenda whatsoever. Whoops. I'm not trying to make a time quota of like we got to do an hour, we got to do 20 minutes, we got to whatever. It just if it's 10 minutes, I mean we're already at 11 minutes, but if it's 15 minutes, so be it. If it's 2 hours, so be it. There's really no rules for this essentially.
Yeah. Sweet. Yeah. I'd love to talk about interviewing process.
Yeah.
When we were like today at work, I was thinking about stuff to talk about. Like the first thing that came to mind was Black Panther because I think that right now I think it's the highest grossing Marvel movie,
Mm-hmm.
at least for the MCU, and
Yeah.
that's being praised all over the place. And culturally for Black people is very significant and all that.
Sure.
But I guess like starting with the sorry, I can't help but fidget.
It's okay.
But I think with the interview process, I think after graduate, I had done interviews before, but it was for very small time work because school was the priority focus.
Sure.
And my parents made sure of that, understandably. So I think after college, I think it was actually very enlightening, the interview process, even though I had done it before with other jobs, because it's really all about like just broadening your horizon with your scope of what the jobs you want to look for,
Mm-hmm.
not being so specific, which may sound counterintuitive, but it actually is very helpful because it just kind of relaxes you and helps you just branch out and just kind of take risk on other jobs that maybe you may not have thought of, or that are in areas that you may not have thought of either.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I think the goal is, or just the idea is just to keep on going at it
Mm-hmm.
with every job application that you think you would be suitable for. Just apply to it. Don't get too caught up with, or don't overthink it. Like, okay, like would I be good for this job? Would I not be? All that matters really is just to apply.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I mean, I know my parents tell me like try to like apply to at least 10 or 15 a day if you can.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you can block out enough time to do that in. But it definitely helps not to just apply to one job for a whole week,
Right.
and then next week you do another application. Like you won't really get any results that way.
Absolutely. How do you handle rejection?
I've gotten better at rejection. I feel like rejection in all of its forms, at least to me, you never really get over that
Mm-hmm.
because it's rejection, and you're putting yourself out there to be accepted, whether it's job applications or school, college applications. Uh, so, and you're kind of putting yourself out there. You're kind of being vulnerable to people to assess you, basically,
Mm-hmm.
to see if you're a good fit. And it does suck when you don't get the job or you don't get the school that you want to go to. But I think you have to kind of keep in mind that it's one job, or it's one school. It's not the end all of scenarios. So you kind of have to like take yourself out of that selfish mode,
Right.
which is understandable. It's an understandable mode. And it's very natural, but just you have to take yourself out of it and think of the bigger picture and not get so bogged down by that kind of rejection.
Do you find like I've kind of dealt with it in a way where, first off, to kind of continue with what you were saying, I kind of do the same thing. I don't let it bog me down, or you know, I don't stew on it. Is the kind of the term I've been using. I don't stew on it for too long. One, because that was, like you said, it was one job, and however many I applied for at that point, or to the date, I think I'm up to like 80 jobs that I applied on in a year just to Indeed. And I've also done Craigslist. I've also done Monster. I've not, just the regular actual websites, whatever. But I guess my question is, do you have an activity that you kind of take or do after, where you're just kind of like, that one we were both kind of going for one at the same time, where we thought we were gonna get it or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And at this point, neither of us got it. I definitely didn't get it because I got a no, and you haven't heard anything. So, and what I ended up doing was just kind of like taking my camera. I go out and I just kind of explore something and do something I know I'm good at, and just like put everything else aside for a minute. So I don't know if you have something like that, and if so, what is it?
I have several things. It kind of just depends on how I'm feeling after the interview, especially when I learned that I didn't get the job. One of my go-tos is just really watching a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much like one of my favorite movies. Like an action movie or like a comedy specifically. Something that can like lift my spirits up.
Right.
I like going for a walk, getting some exercise in. Because when you get kind of depressed or you feel down, you get more lazy.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to do anything. Your energy just goes out the window if you do that. The other thing is that I try to I just kind of just drive to locations that I like going to. Even like window shopping, just walking around malls or going to like antique stores that I like going to.
Mm-hmm.
Look around, just appreciate what's in it, and that kind of just gets my mind off of the rejection.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I do a lot of movie watching too, and I try to turn it into something, like try to learn something from what I'm watching and not just watch it. Although I find that I'm watching a lot of the same stuff and not a lot of new things, so it makes it harder. But I also, on top of doing photography, I get antsy as far as creativity goes. Like, I like to say I wrote that script, the Pearly Gates script, in that situation, but I didn't. But there are times where I've thought about that, where I'm like, let me sit down and write something. Let me, again, do for some photography. Let me go shoot something. Let me just, because that's when I get like, okay, I got to work on something. So at least I feel like what I just spent the last 4 years on was it not, it's never going to be a total waste because I enjoyed everything I did, but that I feel like I made a right choice, I guess. And so, yeah, I like to go back and do something creative, productive, whatever.
Yeah, I agree, and like especially what you said with not just watching movies to watch it, but like to learn something. I like to pick films I've seen before, but I like to watch also like the bonus features, the making of, just the process, just learning that. Even if I've seen it before, like I've seen like the behind the scenes featurettes of like the Lord of the Rings films.
Yeah,
like it does, because that's some of the best like filmmaking documentaries.
Yeah,
I've ever seen. It's like that's my go-to whenever I reference it.
Right.
And also I try to watch films that I normally wouldn't watch. Like today, actually, I watched Ang Lee's film Sense and Sensibility.
Okay, interesting.
And actually, it was very good.
Yeah.
And so and I kind of had a new appreciation for that, for his work that he's done for. So, yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like you got to just turn that negative energy into something productive and positive and whatever. And then this kind of gets added to it as well, what I'm doing here and stuff like that. And I'm sure you feel the same way with your more story-based podcast that you do, where you're trying to work on that, or you have a second one now that you're working on. What's that about?
Yeah, the second one I'm working on, which the origin of that is that I was on eBay because you can go on eBay and find like just loads of people selling old correspondence from wartime. So like
Mm.
this letter, which is in two parts, I is was written during, I believe, like the last year of World War II,
Okay.
from a army sergeant to his family. And I believe I have, yeah, like it's the military kind of like photocopy version, like their copy essentially. It's not the actual letter itself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I haven't finished typing it yet because it's very dense, and it's the text is like really small.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and I always think like when I'm typing it, I'm kind of like just crouched up really close to the computer.
Yeah.
I think of Derek Zoolander,
Uh,
and he's like, "What is this? A letter for ants?"
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of time consuming because of that. Um, but no, I kind of like I'm on eBay a lot recently, just looking at that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they have a lot of, and some of it actually is affordable. This letter I got was very inexpensive, and so yeah, I figured I just kind of wanted to keep doing it. I didn't want letters from West Virginia to be the only uh, oral recitation podcast.
Mm-hmm.
For that to be the only thing that I'm doing, I wanted to do some other things, some one-offs, basically. And I figured this one looked pretty interesting to me. And I think with a one-off, since I've kind of learned a little bit from letters from West Virginia of what not to do, what to like improve on for like the next thing. So I kind of want to add in maybe a few more sound effects, add in like, not say a narrator, but like an additional voice just for quick setup. Nothing major, but they're kind of minuscule, but like they are differences compared to letters from West Virginia.
Sure. And I'm sure, doing it, you have to feel like a sense of, it's got to be weird, first off, to be reading a person's letter. I mean, you probably had this with letters from West Virginia as well, where you're reading somebody's life, essentially, that you've never met, and again, will probably never meet, have no connection to whatsoever, but yet you're learning who they were as a person. Obviously, you're only getting one side of the story with both of them, really. But there's this sense of like, I'm sure you kind of feel like you know this person in a way, especially with more Gardner.
Yeah, I think by the time I'm done with letters from West Virginia, I believe I will have a better idea of who Gardner was. That I think he, from what I can tell, he was 17 or 18 when he wrote these letters, so a very young man.
Yeah.
By the time I'm done with it, I'm sure I'll have a pretty good idea of what he was like during that time period.
Yeah.
And then depending on how the letter goes for this one, for the new one, maybe I'll have an idea of how the sergeant was during World War II.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel like, in a way, you're kind of honoring them, or do you feel like you're dishonoring them? Or anything like that? Or do you feel like you're just doing it as a story?
I feel like I'm honoring them simply because it's kind of keeping their story alive.
Sure.
And not just letting it go away and become unknown in the pantheons of history.
Mm-hmm.
I understand if people were to look at it and say like, oh, like a little hesitant to like, this is some guy's private stories.
Mm-hmm.
Which I can understand. That's a totally solid argument. I can see that.
Yeah.
But I think it does come down to just execution and just how you do handle it.
Yeah.
That I think I said in the introduction episode that I am just being very frank with these letters. I'm not really editing these letters at all, other than like a few moments of where the punctuation wasn't right.
Mm-hmm.
So I changed that just so I can read it effectively.
Right.
All I'm adding is just brief moments of sound effects and some background music, just so each episode is pleasant to listen to.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's Gardner's words. It's not mine. I'm not really affecting it, other than just adding some dramatic levity to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it does feel more narrative and not as just plain old just letter writing.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, you're basically giving a voice to him again.
Yeah.
You know. Um, yeah, I look forward to those when they come out. I think it's pretty interesting. And it's interesting also how dedicated he was to this girl. Did he say her name? I don't know if he says her name.
Yeah, Helen.
Helen. How dedicated he was to Helen, and also just like how each. It's not even like a weekly thing. Sometimes it was daily. He was writing these letters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And while they had a lot of the same themes, most of them were different. I mean, I didn't feel like you were reading the same letter more than once. It really did feel like they were different letters every time. And yeah, it's really interesting to me.
Yeah, because I think with each letter that I've read, and I can safely guess for the future ones that he'll always remind her that he loves her very much.
Right.
And frustrating thing is that we don't have her letters, so we really don't know how she feels. And so, but he manages to pepper in just some like daily things that he does, that he did the past day or past 2 days, just to add in that kind of just very commonality of just going through each day, just doing the little things, his routine, which is interesting. And there's even some stuff where I think he even doubts whether or not she loves him, so which keeps it interesting, and I kind of makes the listener think, okay, like, does she really not feel for him the way that he does for her? And so it's very interesting. I think that alone is what made me want to do this, that I thought, okay, that kind of stuff in these letters could make it interesting for people to listen to.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I would be curious, and I will probably never know, but to be curious to see like how she reacted to these letters, if she wrote them back as frequently or at all, or just what her overall thoughts were on it. And I've talked about this with you before, of like trying to figure out a way to get these to them, or if they're even still alive, or stuff that I don't know how, if you've pursued it all, but they're most likely they're either very old or probably not still with us, unfortunately.
Yeah, I did light research, to be honest, and I kind of did come to a dead end where I just couldn't find definitive answers of whether or not they were alive or still with us. I even went to 2 locations where Helen used to live, to her address on the envelopes. I didn't really knock on the door, but I went there. It's kind of like in a it's in a kind of a neighborhood, slightly run down neighborhood, and I went to Gardner's house, where I think, because I skipped ahead and saw what was the last letter, and it was a different address, and I went there as well. And I didn't knock on the door, because for one, there was a sign that says keep off property, so I didn't want to really tempt that. But no, it wasn't clear that, okay, clearly she still lives here and clearly he still lives there. But yeah, that's kind of as far as I went with research.
Yeah. And you said you wrote ahead, but do you know how it turns out with the last letter, or no?
I don't. I really just looked at the final address. That's why. Yeah, I think that's really why I skipped ahead. That's all I really did.
Yeah.
So because I didn't want to spoil it myself, because like I said in the first episode, I really wanted to learn what happened in each letter the same time the listener would. So I wouldn't have pre-knowledge of what happens in the next 2 letters or something like that.
Right, and I think it makes your reading of it a little bit more genuine too, because if you knew what their fate was, like let's say at the end of the last letter it says, "Oh, can't wait to get married," or something like that, you might read it differently, knowing that information.
I would have maybe not even knowing it. I would have just instinctually added more emphasis, or kind of a hint.
Yeah.
What's going to happen, because I know what's going to happen in my delivery of his lines.
Right. Yeah. So I definitely look forward to those, and
I look forward to your reading as a sergeant.
Oh yeah. I'll
Okay.
definitely. If you want to send it to, well, you're still writing it, but whenever you're finished with it, if you want to send it to me before you're here, I'll definitely look it
Yeah,
over and
definitely.
start to get used to it and stuff. I've been doing a little bit more of like reading, dramatic reading of things because my friends made the mistake of telling me that they find my voice deep and soothing. I don't believe it, but but I maybe I let it go to my head a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they were like we love your voice, and one of them was like I like I could fall asleep to your voice, but she's like I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that as like it's very soothing and comforting and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And they want me to read like bedtime stories to them, but like record it so then they
Okay.
can like play it on their phone, and it'll be like me reading like three little pigs or I don't know something. But last week I found that book you got me, the Johnny Cash poem book.
Yeah.
And I read a couple poems from that, and then I threw in a couple other ones that were kind of sad, but I really wanted this like softer, somber one. I didn't want it to be like happy ones necessarily. And I sent it to him, and as soon as I sent it to him, I was like, "Ew, that was garbage." I don't know why I just sent that to him, but just in like I kind of rushed in the edit because I was like, oh, I want to get this out today for some reason. It was
Yeah, I've
Valentine's
done that
Day.
before. Yeah.
Yeah, just wanted to get it out. But yeah, so I've been doing more of that kind of stuff and taking advantage of the audio stuff that I have and the space that I have, which is quite a bit of a mess here. But it's different than my room, so I'll take it.
Uh huh.
Mm.
That's
Um, but to go back, I meant to add to a point you had before about you said something along the lines of like kind of keeping it from getting thrown out or something like that with the letters or like keeping them around. Something you said something around that.
Yeah, I think I was talking about how I wanted to record these I wanted to record these letters. I sounded like Borat for a second. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
yeah, yeah.
I wanted to record these letters, one just for posterity,
Mm-hmm.
um, just so because no one else was really going to read these letters, obviously, and they kind of just gave them away to this antique store. So clearly, if like a family member uh, of Helen or whoever gave these away, so clearly somebody, I just felt like a need because I'm a big history buff, and
Sure.
I think it's vital that we record history in any way possible, just so we
Mm-hmm.
don't make the same mistakes twice. Which you've heard that cliched, you know, phrase before. You know,
Absolutely.
if we forget history, then we're bound to repeat it.
Yeah.
Um, so I just wanted to get it down on record, just record it, and then I think the more I thought about it, the more I was interested in adding more of a dramatic and narrative flair to it
Mm-hmm.
with the music and kind of the sound effects, just to create more of a story. So when the listener listens to it, they can kind of very easily imagine Gardner writing this letter out on a piece of paper.
Yeah. Well, I bring that back up because I sit here next to my cameras, my old cameras, which I've mentioned to you plenty of times. But I just wanted to kind of go into how it's part of the reason why I collect these cameras because I'll give you a very good example. My Minolta camera that I have now was before I was the owner of it. It was the owner. The owner was my neighbor's his wife's grandparents, essentially.
Uh-huh.
And her parents came to visit when we were having like a holiday party at their house or a Christmas party. What am I saying? A holiday party? Christmas party. And so they were, I brought my Pentax. I was taking pictures, whatever. I had just gotten it. And they mentioned, oh, we have this old Minolta camera. And I was like, oh, that's cool and stuff. They're like, oh, well, next time we visit, I'll bring it or whatever. And, people say that kind of stuff. And then you just kind of like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, if you remember, whatever. And I didn't
Uh-huh.
think they would remember not because they were old or anything like that, but just people forget stuff like that. You
That
say
happens, yeah, a
something,
lot.
yeah, right. And needless to say, they did bring it. I wasn't there when they had, but my neighbor said, "Oh, I have it. You can come grab it." And it was like came with a bag. It was the camera. It was two lenses with it. One was a zoom lens. One was a 50, and whatever. I haven't really shot with the zoom lens because I don't like film zoom lenses. I only like really prime lenses. But regardless, and then I kind of found out. I wish I found out, and I want to find out what he used it for. My mom thinks it's just for. It was probably just their family camera, you know.
Uh-huh.
But I kind of was hoping maybe that was part of his job, or maybe he had more pictures, you know, something more to it than just the camera. Because I like to know the history of it. And long story short, I ended up finding out that they were going to just throw it out if I didn't take it.
Oh wow.
And they were just like, yeah, we don't know what to do with it. We were probably just going to throw it out. And it's like, I felt so like excited that I was able to kind of save it from the garbage, because it's like, it works. Like I just took it when I went down to Richmond, Fredericksburg and Richmond. I'm literally waiting right now for the pictures to come back from the darkroom. And I was just like, couldn't believe you were like, I was going to throw this out. And then I got this camera when I was down in Fredericksburg for $10.
Okay.
And what's funny about this one is this camera, according to my mom, is the exact camera that my grandfather had, her dad, growing up, or when she was growing up. And like, she was telling me that like over here, you'd put like a flash bulb that only worked for 4 pictures. So every 4 pictures, you had to change this flash bulb over here.
Okay.
And then I guess it's 35 millimeter film. I haven't really done much research on it yet, but I can't shoot it. I mean, it's pretty banged up on the inside and stuff, but it's still just a nice little piece. That it was in a case and stuff like that, but I'm sure over time they're probably just like, we don't have room for these, and they chuck them. So I was able to pick this one up. But yeah, and so I even have my first camera I ever bought, my T3i, which you've seen me use before. That one doesn't work anymore, but I'm not going to throw it out because it was my first camera and it was, whatever. And I keep hoping maybe I'll put a good battery in there and it'll work someday, but I don't think that's going to happen. So
yeah, I like that with VHS tapes, as you know. And I just kind of I like the look, I like the feel. A lot of times, kind of like with records, they have really nice covers that aren't used like on the DVD versions anymore. I picked up A River Runs Through It, which is a Robert Redford movie. You have heard of it, and it's got that beautiful poster or the image of like the fly fisherman, about in mid cast, and like the whole fishing line kind of like just goes up the entire VHS case box, and it looks awesome.
Yeah, so it kind of brings up an interesting question of obviously we have different opinions than most of our kids kids our age, because we are kind of like the cliche like old souls or whatever. But I'm curious to see what you think of, like, why do you think there's been this resurgence with millennials of going back to analog things, of like film cameras, of vinyl, of all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of things. One thing that just popped in my head right now is I think we're just bored with the tech that we have, that we kind of grew up into, which was, like the touchpad, the iPhones, iPads, so on and so forth, like mostly Apple products, what they serve.
Sure.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I do like what Apple does. I like what Samsung creates. I couldn't really imagine living with those flip phones from the early 2000s or even before that.
Yeah.
But I think now that we're used to the tech that we have, we're kind of looking back on how our parents lived with their technology, and even our grandparents, and we're kind of having an appreciation for, I think, the more simpler approach to tech, and it's not so polished like our tech is with the iPhones and so on. And we're kind of we're really appreciating just like the analog ingenuity in that, where like every piece of that tech, like a VHS or the cameras that you collect, serves a vital function. And I'm not really explaining this well, but like just aesthetically, I don't know, just like there's more feel to it.
Sure.
If that makes sense. Like
yeah,
like with iPhones and just kind of the iPhone future and like dystopia or utopia, however you want to see it. very polished, and it looks all the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's not much character to it. There's not much a memorable look to any of it. But when you look back to before that, with the cameras, even the cars, each had a very nice and like clean, classy, sexy look to it. But nowadays cars are very kind of like, they look all the same, very streamlined, not much character to it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why. I think we're looking back. We're kind of bored with what we have. We're looking back at what tech used to be like, 30 or 50 years ago, and we're kind of seeing the beauty in that. And we're kind of like, we're jealous. We're kind of like, damn, I wish I lived in that time period where you have all this like cool looking tech that like looks nice aesthetically, and you really have to work for it.
Mm-hmm.
With this tech, with cameras, and you really have to appreciate every minute of it.
Yeah.
With cameras. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think you hit a lot of good points on there, and I found that for me, I see it as people, our generation, are like not just tired or bored of the technology, but like we find it overwhelming. It's a lot, right? Because I mean, so I think there's something about going back to basics in a way of just kind of like, I watched this typewriter documentary. I may have mentioned this to you, where Tom Hanks, he's a collector of typewriters and stuff like that. And he said, somebody asked him, like, why do you collect typewriters of all things, And he goes, there's something about having a piece of machinery that's good at doing one job. It's the best at doing that one job.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, you can say that with the film cameras that I collect, with the VHS tapes you can collect, with old phones, and whatever. Like our cell phones now are GPS. There are cameras. There are phones. There are social media outlets. There are computers. So for some people, whatever. Instead of just like, I brought my film camera and my digital camera, which obviously the digital can do video and pictures. I brought both down to Richmond with me. I gave my digital camera to my brother. He wanted to make a video, and I used the film camera, and it was nice. I had to pick and choose which shots I used. Every shot counted, because obviously, it was literally, I was basically not wasting money, but every shot I took was money. It was a piece of that $5 I spent on a roll or whatever. So it was just there's just something about that simplicity, and also just comfort and warmth, and it's just lived in, like with vinyl and stuff like that. You put it on, you're just like, you just feel at ease, and it relaxing.
Yeah, like I think like with cameras, there's like a sense of, at least with the older ones, there's a sense of adventure,
Mm-hmm.
and like a journey to it. So you have to like you have to take a picture, make sure it counts.
Mm-hmm.
You take all that film, you send it to a processing plant,
Mm-hmm.
and they give it back to you. You kind of look through the ones that are good, ones that are bad, and if you're able to then take some newer technology like Photoshop, and you can like tweak it a little bit. So like it's a whole process. But with our phones, even our phones, they take good enough photo qualities as like professional cameras can. So you can like take a picture, and then within a second edit it, and then within a second post it online. So like we do this process almost too quickly
Mm-hmm.
nowadays, and we can't really appreciate it because it's become so mundane.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here, like I just said, I'm waiting for the email for them to send me the link. I'm chomping at the bit to see my pictures. Where the digital ones, I've had them done for almost a week already.
And not to say like you don't care about those digital photos,
Mm-hmm.
but you appreciate the ones that you're forced to wait for.
Mm-hmm.
And you're kind of more excited, like, because there's a risk of that you may have not taken a good photo at all.
Yeah.
There's also a chance that you took like 4 out of 5 great photos.
Yeah, and also there's just like, it's to stick with for film and stuff like that. Film is so more forgiving, especially black and white film.
Uh-huh.
Like I just posted a picture you probably saw of my young neighbor Jake, with a camera in his hand.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah, it was his great grandparents' camera.
Okay.
So, anyway, that picture, it was just like, obviously it's not just totally in focus or sharp or, whatever. And I also tweaked it a little bit in Photoshop. It was very like washed out. It wasn't as like contrast of like clear blacks, clear whites, gray, or, it was just like very gray. Um, but if I took that digitally and that was that out of focus, whatever, I would just throw it right in the garbage. I wouldn't even think about it, you know. But because it was film, because I paid money essentially for that picture, and there's still some like there's still something about it where you can still obviously you can see him holding the camera. He's inquisitive by it, and
Yeah,
whatever.
you want to like work at it a little bit more and
Yeah,
not give up on it so easily. And
yeah, yeah,
I thought it was still a good photo, even though it's not completely in focus.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I've seen plenty of those. I mean, how many documentaries have we seen of these old, from the 60s or 70s where somebody's eyes are closed, somebody's out of focus or whatever, but they still put it in the documentary because one, maybe that's the only picture they have of them or of that era that they were in, or just they also just don't have as many pictures. Obviously I could take with my digital camera, I could take 3,000 pictures in a day, and it cost me nothing because I paid for that memory card months ago. You know, I've made my money's worth on that card already. But with film, if I took 1,000 pictures, how many? You know, that's like $100 right there that I just spent, or whatever it is. So it's just like you basically, like you said, you work for every picture. Every picture counts. You're sitting there, and it's especially if you have like the cameras we have where they're almost entirely manual, if not entirely manual. And you have to sit there, you have to focus, you have to do the aperture. Like there's those extra steps that you just kind of take them in. And I have missed a lot of opportunities because of it, but then also it allowed me to just, okay, well, there's that challenge. Let me see if I can find something else. I almost also got attacked by a homeless person because I was trying to take a picture with my film camera now. And if it was my digital camera, I probably would have gotten the picture and then ran away faster. But
oh, really?
yeah.
I didn't know that.
So I'll tell you. So down in Richmond, we had just came out of a record shop, Plan 9, something like that. Anyway, it's not important to the story. But we came out of there, and we were going to head back because it was raining and stuff like that. But I was like, all right, real quick, let me just go down like a block down the street. There's an old movie theater that has the marquee with the big sign with the movie printed on it, whatever. I was like, I want to get a picture of that. And so I went down there. That's what I got a picture of. And then next to the movie theater, there was a vintage clothes shop, which I, no joke, saw a mannequin wearing like a white zoot suit with like the white fedora and like just short of like a feather. Like it was like straight out of The Mask or something. Anyway, it was really cool. And I was looking at that. I was looking at the storefront, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw a homeless guy who was kind of sitting on like a bucket or a crate or something, and he was kind of just like tapping along to whatever he was in his head or whatever, and he was looking off to the right, and I was off standing on his left, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna get a picture of it because obviously I like portraits, I like taking people, street photography, all that stuff. It just fit what I was going for. So I'm like, all right, cool. And I had to make a little bit of an adjustment from the storefront taking a picture. I had to come over. I had to make sure everything was. Every picture I'll check and make sure that needle's in the middle, that it's good exposure. And then obviously I had to focus. So I'm sitting there and I'm pulling the focus. All of a sudden I see him stand up. He like whips over, looks at me, and he stands up. Now he's in like this like defensive, like arms down, but like making like a T with his body of like defensive stance. And I was just like, shit, So I quickly like turned the camera back towards the storefront. I think I had to waste a picture, basically taking a picture of the storefront, like really close up because I was with a 50. And then instead of like walking away like bug-eyed and like scared looking, I was just kind of like walked away like, I was like inquisitive of like, oh, what's down here? And I just kind of like,
safety, it's over there.
Oh, is that where the safe zone is? Let me go over there. And like, I just kind of kept a straight face of like, let me walk over here. But the whole time walking back, I was like, he is behind me. He is going to stab me. He is going to whatever, steal my camera. And so I just wouldn't look back.
I thought when you're leading to that, I felt like his back was to you. You got him in focus, and you took the picture, and he heard the click. He just kind of slowly turned his head, and then he got up.
No, I and again, if I had the digital camera, I would have probably gotten 6 pictures off before he even noticed. You know what I mean? Because it would have been autofocus. It would have been like boom, 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 and then he would have stood up, and I still could have had like that moment of like, oh, what's over here? But at least I would have gotten a picture. And then back in Fredericksburg the next day, I saw another guy who was like a street performer, more like, I think he was homeless as well, but he was like playing guitar and he had a harmonica, kind of like Bob Dylan-y. And I was like, I want to get a picture of him. And him, I was willing to like go up and say, here, I'll give you $1 or $2. Can I get your picture? And I would have done it. I had the digital that day, so I would have just been like, just hit as many pictures as I could. I ended up kind of chickening out or whatever. But my cousin was nice enough to like stand in a spot where she was kind of like, here, like, I know you want his picture. Like, I'll, pretend like you're taking my picture, whatever. And then I cropped in. So like she was out of the picture or whatever, because I did take a picture of her, but it just kind of cropped in. And that's that picture I posted where the guy's like sitting on the curb, like off to the right side. I think I posted it in the last like week or so or whatever. That was that picture. But yeah, I didn't get that first one in Richmond. I didn't get him unless he's in like a reflection or something of the storefront. I would love to have. I almost like kind of wish I got a picture of him like standing up and like looking at me all like bug-eyed or something, because I've been like
that would be a good portrait, honestly.
It would have been, but I've been like thoof, and just like poop my pants right there. Yeah, but you do what you got to do, I guess, sometimes for pictures. And I want to be better at just like, hey, do you mind? Like, I made a video about it where I just like walked up. It doesn't hurt sometimes to just talk to somebody for a few minutes, and then at the end, just like, hey, do you mind if I get a picture?
I know it's like getting somebody's picture is easier said than done. And, like I've kind of done that too a couple times, and I lock up every time. Like, oh fuck it, I don't want to. I'll go over here.
Yeah. I'll get a picture of this tree again, or whatever. Because that's why, like, especially with film, I want pictures to count. And so, like, to me, taking a picture of like a building or whatever, just like a random building or like here's the street, to me is a waste. That's why, like, the theater I thought was just cool. I was like, that was like an exception for me, but for the most part I try to like have every picture have like some kind of person in it, even if it's just me taking a reflection selfie or something. Just to have some kind of person, because you can see them, they're making an expression, they're whatever. Obviously you can relate, because like I am also a human being, and not a tree or a building or whatever. So, I'm very excited now talking about the photos. I'm just like, come on, dark room, answer me, because they told me last night, they're like, oh, we got your package, and usually within less than 24 hours, it's like I've had it where it's been like 4 hours later in like the middle of the night here. They're sending me like they sent me an email.
Yeah, I still got to send those photos from the racial march.
Really, you haven't sent them?
I've been really behind on that. I even have some photos. I have 4 rolls of that, and I have 4 rolls of photos I took at my parents' cabin. Because I had taken pictures of the cabin before with my film camera, so I figured it would be a good opportunity to do that. So yeah, I gotta send off at least one of them, maybe this week. I'll try to get that done.
The DC pictures.
Yeah, I'll do the DC pictures.
I want to see them.
Yeah, I think those are in color. Yeah, I think those are in color. So
that'd be cool. Yeah, I want to see them. I don't remember if I was in one, but if I am, send it to me. I don't think I was though.
I don't think so. I was able to get one. I did ask one person if I could get a picture of her with her poster, and that went pretty well. I didn't lock up or anything, but hopefully it's in focus.
Yeah. Well, those
like that'd be the bitch that like the one person I was able to talk to, and it's not even focused. Like fuck.
Yeah, or it's underexposed or something.
Yeah.
But those kind of events, people want you to take their picture.
Yeah, that's why they're there in the first place, to get like notice me. I'm protesting about something.
Right.
Please look at me.
Especially
somewhere else on social media. Yeah.
Especially people like our age and stuff like that. If they're there, 100% take their picture. They're more than likely. I mean, they have to expect it. I mean, especially like a big event like that, your picture's gonna get taken.
I don't know if it was today or yesterday with all those teenagers who went to DC to protest. The ban assault rifles march. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm sure people like not even like press, just pedestrians in general were just taking pictures of them and just
right. And same with like events like Comic-Con or any of these like gathering things. It's like you just expect it,
Yeah, I think like cosplayers, like professionals who like make a living out of this, it kind of almost expect people to walk up to ask if they can take a picture of you and so on. So like that's how they make their living, is modeling and taking pictures. Yeah.
Yeah, and so those kind of things. But like when I'm walking around Richmond on a Saturday afternoon or whatever in February, people are not expecting to get their picture taken. So
Yeah.
that didn't stop me though. When we were in the Richmond or Virginia Museum, whatever it was called, of art or something, they had on display those terracotta Chinese warriors.
Yeah.
There was a whole exhibit on it that they were like touring around, and it happened to be at this museum or whatever. So we went in and we did it, and I was like, decided, because it was so crowded, I wasn't going to be able to like get up close and like read anything about it or whatever. I got a couple pictures of like the actual like soldiers and what I could, but I was like, you know what? Let me just take pictures of people looking at the stuff, that kind of thing. And they had these cool like glass cases with like light coming out from under it or from the side or whatever. So those are the pictures I'm really excited for, to get like cool reflections in the glass or like some cool lighting and stuff like that. The only thing I'm worried. Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say the only thing I'm worried about is, and I don't know if this is the same thing with your Minolta, but it seems like I can make little to no adjustment, and it's just always in the middle. And like I put a fresh battery in there, and like if I like sit there and really turn the dial, like it'll change or whatever. But like I've gone from like really dark to a really light room and made like a minuscule change, and it seems like it barely affected it.
Well, it's hard for me because like mine isn't battery operated.
Oh, okay, right.
So I literally have to like physically change the f-stop and the
so do I. Yeah. Just, the battery's just for the light meter, just for the needle to go up and down. Like
right.
this.
So I think honestly, I'm kind of convinced my light. If my camera does have a light meter, because I think yours is a little bit of a later model.
I think so.
I think so maybe mine's probably just completely analog. So honestly, I've just been using the Sunny 16 rule. So I've just been shooting during the day, honestly, with my Minolta, and if I keep it at at 1/250th or something like that, I'm pretty solid with the lighting.
Yeah.
But no, I haven't really run into that kind of problem before, and like with getting people, like taking pictures of people, I find it easier obviously because when they're not moving, like it's harder to ask someone to take their picture when they're about to walk past you.
Yeah.
Because they're on the move, they want to get to where they want to go. But if somebody's sitting down in a park, and to use the word, they're kind of defenseless. It's a little easier to walk up and ask, "Can I take a picture for a second?" Or
yeah, I mean, again, that's why it also doesn't hurt, especially if they're doing something interesting, or if like you're walking in the city and they're one of those like street artisty people or whatever. If you like talk to them and like make it seem like you're gonna buy something, and then go, "Hey, can I take your picture?" or whatever, and you take your picture and then you just leave, you're good. But feel there it is. I felt the burp coming. Yeah. So I'm just. Let me see. Did they? I'm gonna check. They're being uploaded. How exciting!
Sweet.
How exciting! All right. I don't want to. We can go as long as we go. I'm not gonna be like, okay, we're done. They can wait. But I just like that knowing. It's like, okay, they're good.
Yeah.
Because of course, as soon as I put them in that envelope and I seal them up, I go, one of these days, one of these rolls is going to get lost, and I'm never, you know what I mean? Because I've had trouble, or my mom's had trouble, where she's lost things in the mail, like her wedding video. Luckily, we had a second copy, and we've since got it. Did we get a digital time? No, we didn't get a digital.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, we did. Okay, yeah, right, we did. So we're good now. But originally, that's what she sent it away for, to get it digitized or whatever, and then it got lost. And luckily, again, we had a second copy that I went and personally took to get it done. But yeah, knock on wood, I've done it darkroom 5 or 6 times now in the last 3 or 4 months, and they haven't lost anything yet, but it's going to happen at some point. And it's not even going to be their fault. It's going to be like the mail's fault or something.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? But just keep hoping that it doesn't happen. But yeah. Well, listen, I don't want to keep you too long, but I'm just trying to think what else to talk about. Let's talk about the movie real quick. the movie I wrote.
Okay.
Yeah. So the thing about it is the location is so crucial, and I'm sure you got that from the script of just like it's important. Their environment that they're in is important because it's heaven, or just
Yeah.
outside heaven or whatever. Um, so it's kind of one or two things for me. It's going to be either one, a field, like an open field with a desk, and we can throw that. I love that line of like, "Oh, we're under construction. This is the best we got," kind of something along those lines.
Yeah.
Or in a warehousey white room, waiting room kind of thing, like where my mom works. She was like, "Oh, you can use the waiting room at the office." She works at the doctor's office. I
Yeah.
was like, "You think your boss is gonna go for that?" She's like, "I don't know, whatever." And so, if that works out, that'd be great. But it's like a very square, just like 10 by 10 room with like chairs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean that kind of reminds me of the waiting room in Beetlejuice,
Mm-hmm.
where they add that kind of like just having that mundane, boring like dentist office waiting room.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like it's the gates. It's the gates to heaven, but it's like such a mundane place to wait.
Mm-hmm.
And like St. Peter is the clerk who's just kind of like very disgruntled and just kind of like just doesn't want to be there and just kind of wants to get people just want to reads off who's allowed in heaven, who goes to hell, and so on.
Right. That was exactly what I was going for. Very DMV. I don't think I had the. I'm glad because I don't think I told you the DMV idea. I think you had just came up with it on your own or whatever. So I'm glad you got that from the script without me having to say it because obviously that means I did my job well. Because otherwise, if I was just like, I was going for DMV, and you're like, oh, really? So it's
No,
good.
I got that solely from just the character.
Okay,
of
cool.
Peter, really not the location, but just his attitude and
Yeah, good. Yeah, and then like you said with the Monty Python, I was thinking Mel Brooks, Monty Python, just kind of like physical gags of like, oh, I think it's one of his best pictures. It's like, oh, of course you took the picture, and it's like, yeah, and then just all of a sudden has a camera, just like sight gags, kind of is what I've been referring to him. So the location is kind of huge, and what I was gonna say is as an alternate to that, as a third option of you coming down is if we both, because we're probably both itching to be movie creative, we could do something else, maybe something more improv-y that we're if you wanted to jump in front of the camera or whatever, we could do something like that, something a little more humorous. The two my two friends who would play those parts are more comedic. They're more, especially my friend Meg, who would play St. Peter. She can be very funny and improv-y funny. So, and I could probably get access to the small theater that I did a lot of the Sweeney Todd stuff from. So if I can think of something, or we can think of something surrounding like a theater, like even if it's mockumentary, if it's just like a weird, whatever short comedy bit thing, we could do that as well. And then just really, because I really want the location to matter for the Pearly Gates one. And so if I don't want to like do some like half-ass location, whatever. Even though I probably would shoot it very tight, I want to have some kind of master shot that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you find the right location, I actually would suggest kind of showing that location.
Mm-hmm.
Especially if it's like a field and just like wide shots, like it would look really nice in a wide shot, and just I think that would almost add to the production value.
Yeah, I agree.
And then like if that idea doesn't work out, but just like doing something like an alternative, like just a brief little comedy sketch. And you said you would want to do that in a theater location?
Not necessarily. I'm thinking of like places I have most likely access to, because like the guy Larry, who's the president of the theater, has access to it, and it's very small. Holds like 80 people, like real tiny theater. Kind of like it's probably like stage and the seats and stuff a little bigger than the sound stage at Stevenson.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, but then obviously they have like side rooms. They have a downstairs, but it's an old building and stuff. It used to be a mortuary in the 30s, so it's kind of like there's the like spirits and stuff like that. Anyway, so I could probably ask Larry to like be like, hey, can we shoot here one day? And he'd be like, of course. And he loves me. Maybe perhaps in a creepy way. No, I'm just kidding. No, he's very nice, and he's just a cool dude. Um, but yeah, so there's that possibility, but don't be like if you're gonna start thinking of ideas, don't be limited by that. We could easily try to shoot at my house or shoot at in a car or
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, I was thinking, I was a little too late. I was already thinking of ideas like the theater, like it's like I would play like it would be like kind of like a found footage or documentary where like I'm a ghost hunter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm at that theater that you mentioned that is kind of creepy. There's a mortuary under
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
and shenanigans ensues or whatever.
yeah. Yeah, and maybe Meg and Christine, they're my friends, whatever. They could play like the ghost or the spirits or or something like that,
Yeah, we could
or your
kind
film
of
crew.
parody Blair Witch a little bit or
Mhm.
something. Like near the end, like I have the camera at me, and it's like it's at that close up
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
from the original movie, and like water's. I was like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because they have like the closet of like costumes and stuff like that, so I could just picture you like trying to like hide in the costumes and like
Yeah.
stuff like that. And then I have my friend Heather, who I've done some portraits with before and stuff. She's already game to do hair, makeup, costume, all that stuff.
Okay.
So if we think of anything like, we need you to have a big fucking blood on your face or whatever, she's game to do that. She's awesome. She's the one that does Catwoman and
Right.
and all that stuff. She's fantastic. And so I've been meaning to like find a project for all of us to work on, and
I mean, I'll,
Yeah.
I'll think about that. I mean, I kind of like the idea of like that ghost hunter idea.
yeah,
And we could like pick a location or at least have a location set in the script where it can be easily changed.
yeah,
So like if the theater falls flat,
mm-hmm.
getting that reserved, then we could just easily take the story and plop it in like a house and just
yeah,
say
yeah,
it's
yeah.
haunted,
Yeah.
which could be your house or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if the theater can work out, I think that'd be the best option and stuff. I'm trying to think. I'm looking at my light because if I have to put it on top of the camera, we'll figure something out. Not a big deal. But
Yeah, we could add. Yeah, we could have the character, like the additional character of like a cameraman.
Yeah.
Like named Keith or something like that, or
just Keith. Yeah. Well, yeah, maybe we'll figure. We'll think of some other ridiculous name or something because I want Keith to be Keith. Keith to be something. I mean, that's the other thing is we could do another Keith thing. I mean, Keith is always going to be there. I know we are kind of like we don't want to do too many things, but it's always there and he's fun to do. I'm sure you. I would hope you enjoy playing him. I don't know.
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. But maybe you want to stretch your creative and your acting abilities.
I like to do like a whole new character. Yeah, like a.
Yeah. The only thing I see with the Ghost Hunter thing is I wonder if there's not too many parodies of it. Like because then who did one? Somebody in school did one like and it was really good. Like I want to say like Ben Block or.
Oh yeah.
Somebody did a really funny one.
I know the guy who works
Dustin.
at Disney.
Dustin.
Yeah, he did one.
That's who it was. His was really good.
It was funny. Yeah.
So I don't want to like.
True.
I love the idea. I just want to like make sure that if we're gonna do it, that we can really make it different, or just try to think of something else.
Yeah, I mean, I think let's first stick with the pearly gates idea, and if you're able to get a good forest clearing or whatever, or the office, I think where your mom works, then let's go ahead with that. But if not, then think of something else.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a forest clearing, or there's a couple like all the schools have like baseball, soccer fields and stuff like that. That if we go on a Saturday, I'm hoping that it's going to be March, so there might be some kind of practice going, but I'm hoping maybe there won't. And I'll try to scout it out a little bit and see.
Yeah.
I
would think they would be practicing on Saturday actually, but who knows?
That's where I was kind of like, I don't know. I guess I can have my mom ask because that probably would be our best bet as far as like I think because she has a key. It's more just a matter of like getting her permission or his permission.
Right, like after hours shooting there or something.
Yeah, because they're open on some Saturdays, but hopefully that's not one of them, and we can get in there, and obviously we won't like be crazy or anything. The shot is very very simple. Like the shoot, is very simple. It's only two actors and whatever. So
There's not much to it, really. Yeah.
that's why, I mean, I wrote it to be that simple of like, again, I have all the props that we would need. I have the two actors in mind who wanted to do it. I had a costume person, you know. I was literally just waiting, one for a location and one for a second hand, so somebody to do sound, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
You can use my cool new stuff. And then if Kyle's around, he said he'd shoot it, but if not, I'll just do it. Not a big deal. But maybe, hopefully, for once, I'll be able to just direct something. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
Actually, I did it with Good Luck Duck, but
Yeah.
we should know how that turned out now. I'm just kidding.
At least you got that done and released.
You know, real quick, I'm glad I got it out, and I haven't gotten a bad reaction to it. I mean, I wasn't really also expecting anybody to be like, that fucking sucks, you know. But I was expecting maybe a little more like constructive criticism, and for the most part, like everybody said, oh, it was funny, I enjoyed it, and you know, whatever. So that's what it was, and it's out there and exists, and moving on, you know.
Yeah, sure.
But the big thing was, I'm glad Red really liked it because I know how much she worked on it, and she was very happy with it. She even got an internship because of it, she says.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for editing, which is cool. Tori said she laughed through the whole thing, but she's also pretty easy laugh. And I'm also glad because I wasn't sure how she was feeling throughout the shoot. I think we've talked about it where we were just kind of like, I don't know if she's having a good time, but she said she liked it, so that's good. Yeah, everybody that watched it liked it. So, you know, and then I don't know if I told you, but your project, as well as my shave video and Trump 2019 are part of my reel that I put together. I just kind of cut quick couple.
Yeah, I watched it. Yeah.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay. Yeah. And it cut together a lot smoother than I thought it would. I was expecting it to be really choppy, but I feel like it like moved along like well enough, and like even with the cuts, like you were just kind of like, okay, you know, I'm just seeing snippets or whatever.
Yeah.
So, but all right, well, let's see. It's been an hour and 12 minutes, so
sounds good.
Yeah, I think we'll wrap it up here. This was a good episode. Do you like the title before we go? I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I like the title. I like it's unconventional. Quite honestly, if you can't think of another title, just leave it alone.
I'm probably not going to change it. It's like I couldn't think of a title, but that is the title kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because I wanted it to be very just like, this is exactly what it is. It's just, it doesn't need a name. It's just us shooting the breeze, and I'm recording it. And so it's an untitled talk about it.
There's no set expectation with it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that picture I took with a light bulb, I just found that was in a bar, or it was part of the bar in a restaurant that we went to in Fredericksburg, and I was like, black and white light bulb, sure, throw that in there, because I was like, I could easily do a picture of like me, you know, like sitting there, or you know, whatever. I was like, I don't want it to be me, you know, because it's kind of like it's douchey, and it's just kind of like, again, I didn't want it to focus just on like me all the time, so I went with that picture. But all right, there's no wrap up for this. There's no outro music. There's nothing. It's just like, I'm literally gonna finish here. I'm gonna put it on my computer, and I'm upload it on SoundCloud, and that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, I will talk to you soon. Obviously, if we have ideas and you want to think of other things, obviously I'm always game to listen and whatever. And I'll let me know about I'll go this way. Let me know about because you've been on my big monitor.
You weren't even looking at me though.
Is this better? Let me know about if you can get Sunday too, because I think it would just be better for you. So that way you're not.
I agree. Yeah, I didn't really think about like the drive. Surprisingly.
Yeah, I figured
a long one. So hopefully, they give me Saturday and Sunday, but.
Yeah, because that'd be nice. And that way, if we finish early on Saturday, it's not like you're rushing out. We could go, and I'll show you the diner that's been on TV that Greg has been dying to go to. You can go to it first.
Yeah.
We'll take a picture of like with the menu, like, fucker. You know.
Look at you here.
Well, actually, he's doing that internship. I don't know if you talked to him other than in the group message, but he's doing an internship like just outside Philly, but in New Jersey. So he's not too far from us. So maybe I'll have him if you do end up staying Saturday. which you're more than welcome to, I'll have him like come by, and maybe the podcast boys can go to the diner.
Sweet. Sounds good.
All right. See you later, man.
See you later.
Bye.